Hi, this is Trevor Conquergood. Welcome to this week's RNK Software Club's video for the week. And our topic for this week is going to be about how to use the Distortion Tool. And so if you're ready to get started, let's go ahead and pop onto my workspace. And you can see that I've used the Distortion Tool to make the word distortion be a little bit kind of crazy. It's kind of a fun tool. It's up here on your toolbar at the top in the red area, this tool right here. So for example, you can select any shape and I can reset this one, like for example, if I select this and pretty much do anything to get it to regenerate the stitches, like even just click apply, it's going to remove the distortion. So distortion is kind of like a tool that you can apply. And then if you really want to keep it and never have it get lost, you might need to preserve as stitches. But notice that just by clicking apply, it reset the word back to kind of what would be, the normal shape of all the letters. So here's the tool up here. So anytime you have something selected, could be text, could be embroidery design, could be a piece of fill, just click on your distortion tool and notice that there's different options. You've got zigzag, you've got wave, you have twirl and pinch and spherize. Now, pinch and spherize, they're going to look different in different cases. And certainly for the lettering, I think the zigzag and the wave kind of had a neat look to them right away. Even twirl, where it kind of takes the word letters and puts them into a sort of a swirling pattern. But pinch and sphere, maybe not so much. It'll be easier to see how these affect it anyway when I work with a piece of kind of like a fill. But for example, if we click on zigzag and then you have the ability to adjust the frequency. So I can, I guess, decide how much of the zigzag it is and kind of the amplitude or how big is it, how big of a dent is it or how kind of less of a dent is it. So you can kind of play with it and have fun and make your own kind of distorted letters like that. You'll notice that if there are long satin stitches, that to be able to like create the two sides, it'll like split them like this. And so it creates kind of a neat look. And like I said before, if you want to kind of reset it, all you really have to do is select it and click apply, because the distortion is only affected when you put the distortion tool on. And so clicking apply kind of like removes it and goes back to the defaults again. So we'll let that, it might just take an extra second. So what we can do now is maybe just move down a little bit and I'll use the rectangle tool to draw a shape. And then we'll use something like a motif fill. So if I click on the motif fill tool, here I've just moved this, sorry. So click on the motif fill tool, you can see that it's just the regular kind of organized pattern until you click on the distortion tool. And now you've got that zigzag option or the wave option, or the twirl option, which I guess if you want to make a flying carpet, maybe that's the way to go. But now pinch is kind of neat because see how here's our rectangle, but it's affecting kind of an area that I can control the radius of that. So make it smaller or make it bigger. So even if I make it the maximum kind of radius that I could within the size of that rectangle, then I can decide how big will the sort of part of it inside become and see how I can make it smaller or a little bit more and a little bit more. So that is kind of called a pinch. And so if I say, okay, you'll see that it will take the center and kind of pinch it, but not affect the rest of the shape. And so that's kind of one way of doing it. If I copy this and then let's convert it into a mesh fill. And with mesh fill, it'll start out with just like one set of rows. And so if you use this kind of tool, it'll make your rows, zigzag. And again, you can control the frequency of the zigzag and kind of the amplitude of it. And so that can create some very unique patterns like that. And so every time you use it, it's kind of like another chance to apply. Let's try a square. So for example, if I take and I hold my control key down, then my rectangle, stays in that kind of perfect square shape. And so let's take and make a perfect square and then do a motif fill in the background of that. And then instead of doing pinch, if we do sphere, so the thing with the square is it kind of makes a perfect circle. So if I use the distortion tool, and you can do a zigzag in your square or a wave or the twirl or the pinch. But now if you do spherize, it will take and make an actual three-dimensional looking shape. And so how fun is the distortion tool? It's a very interesting way to kind of affect a design. Now, remember, you can select these, and if you click apply, they're going to go back to the original square that they were. And so if you really like it and you don't want it to ever be lost again, and you've used this tool to maybe do a pinch or a spherize, and you want to make sure that it doesn't get disrupted, then you could right click and say to preserve this as stitches, and that as will kind of lock those stitches in place. And then now I could, well, I can't really apply the distortion tool to it anymore. Actually, that may not even be true, because I believe the distortion tool works on stitches. And so now that we've said it, I know that doing something like resizing it won't, change that kind of effect. But if I take that distortion tool, I can distort it again. So now I can make a sphere out of the pinched one, or I can pinch the pinched one. And so that might be kind of fun if I made a smaller radius and kind of like another scale. And yeah, maybe the other way, like this, and then like that. Anyway, you can kind of see how you can affect the stitches with the pinched one. So even in embroidery design, let's just look for one. I found one that was kind of cool in September of 2022, and it was the Happy Teachers Day, or probably any design that's kind of a little bit on the rounded side. Because notice what I can do with Happy Teachers Day is select that, use the distortion tool, and if I go to pinch, I can get it to kind of like do a little bit of kind of a dramatic effect on the center of it. So this is what it probably starts out like. But if I, do this, it kind of stretches the center. And another one would be to just change it to straight up sphere. So now it takes that design and it really sort of stretches it into the kind of balloon or apple shape that it was or could be. So once again, it's kind of a fun tool, and you can try it with any design. Just click on the distortion tool, and if you don't like it, you can always click on undo, or like I said, I think even just trying to like resize the design or click on the apply button is going to remove the distortion tool. And then you can put it on again later. And so I hope you enjoyed this week's RNK Software Club's video of the week. Until next week, have a great day and bye for now.